Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Off Limits Grumpy Player by Clarissa Mckay, narrated by Lou Banks and Bradley Ford. Chapter 1. Heather. The first shot had burned its way down my throat. The third one went down a lot smoother. The music at Clover Way Inn, a local dive bar in our town, is always either classic rock from the 80s or whatever is currently popular. And right now, the heavy beat of I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett blares through the speakers. It's nearly drowned out by the chatter of everyone inside. It's a Friday night, and it's quite busy, even though it's only a couple of days after the new year. I'm surrounded by many familiar faces, classmates I went to school with, some older folks I knew from around town, and even one of my former teachers. I pay none of them any mind and instead sip my go-to drink, vodka cranberry with pineapple, and focus on having fun with the small group of my old high school friends that I'm with. It's my second drink, or my fifth if you count the 3 shots I also took, and the buzz I'm feeling puts me in a good, light mood, which is exactly what I had been looking for after the fight with my dad. I absently chew on the straw as I think of our argument. It's the same thing over and over again, about him not understanding my choice and what I'm majoring in, even though I'm about to start my second semester of sophomore year of college. I know the opportunities I'll have by majoring in English and minoring in journalism. The internship I had over the summer in a well-known New York City publishing house was enough to cement me on my path, no matter how disapproving my dad is of the industry. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't wound me deeply each time he shit on me and my choices, particularly since he's always boasting about my brother Connor and his decision to be a psychologist. Connor is the golden child. I'm the one who can never measure up. But I'll never let that divert me from the road I'm taking, nor will I let it affect my relationship with my brother. Hello, Earth to Heather. I blink out of my thoughts as my friend Stacy snaps her fingers in front of my face with an amused grin. Come back to reality, please. I roll my eyes and smile lazily. Unfortunately, I'm stuck here, I say, making her snort. Boo-hoo, she says with a roll of her eyes. She jerks her chin toward something over my shoulder. Reality is where Luke Miller can't keep his eyes off you. I bite the inside of my lower lip to stop a stupid smile from spreading on my face, but shamelessly glance over my shoulder. Luke, my brother's best friend, is sitting right where I'd seen him about 20 minutes ago, accompanied by a bunch of his old buddies from high school, too. I wasn't surprised to see him. Everyone comes to Clover Way when we're home from school for winter break. The second I look over at him, his eyes lock with mine, and my heart does a foolish little flip at the subtle arch of his eyebrow. I've known Luke long enough to know what that means. A silent ask if I'm okay. I grin at him, throwing up a somewhat awkward peace sign with my free hand, the warmth in my skin because of the alcohol intensifying as a corner of his mouth curls into a smirk before it disappears behind the rim of his beer bottle. When he gives an amused shake of his head, I huff. I'll be right back, I say to Stacy and the others, who nod before I head toward Luke. I weave through the crowd of people, stumbling only a little as I focus on putting one foot in front of the other. The room is only slightly spinning as the alcohol runs through my veins, but that doesn't stop me from taking another long sip as I approach Luke's table. The second he sees me, he turns his massive torso, sculpted from years on the ice and in the gym, away from the table. His attention is on me as his body faces mine. His usual stoic expression is settled on his features, the kind that tells most people to stay away from the 6'4" grump. But I've known Luke for most of my life, Even in my drunken haze, I can see the subtle mirth that dances in those hazel eyes as he gazes at me. His jacket is off, showing off the tattoo sleeve on his left arm, the one that I'm pretty sure I've memorized the design of. When Luke raises another silent eyebrow at me, I try to keep myself from slurring my words when I tell him, "The bodyguard role isn't necessary tonight, Lukey." It's a nickname that I'm positive only I call him. You take one look at the tall, broad-shouldered hockey player, and he doesn't at all look like someone whose name would be something as childish as Lukey. But I've called him that since we were kids, and he's never shown an aversion to it. Well, when I use it, that is. So it just stuck. "It is when something's wrong," Luke replies, his deep voice low, the smooth tone licking down my spine. I have to physically stop myself from shivering. The stool he sits on is a little tall, and since Luke is already over a foot taller than me, he stares down at me with concern gently filtering into his eyes. "I know you, Heather. What's going on?" Luke Miller, notoriously, isn't the chatty type. He's a hell of a hockey player and a good, loyal friend, but talkative isn't an adjective anyone would use to describe him. But that hasn't ever really been the case with us, or with him and Connor. Luke has always been the kind of guy to have a few close friends, not including his hockey teammates. Even around his friends, he's the quiet type, more of a listener and observer than a talker. Kind of like, well, a bodyguard. He's never, however, had a problem starting a conversation with me. It's always made me feel a little special. And it certainly fuels the stupid crush I've had on him for who knows how long. "Nothing," I tell him with a flash of a smile. "I'm all right, just—" I wave dismissively with my free hand. "I got into a fight with my dad. The usual." Luke's jaw clenches. He knows about my tense relationship with my dad just as well as Connor does. I raise my half-empty glass, grinning. "This is helping." He purses his lips briefly, the muscle in his sharp jaw working. "That's a healthy coping mechanism," he says dryly. "Exactly," I chirp, making his expression flatten even more, if possible. Doesn't make him any less handsome, though. He's got an aristocratic nose, just a tiny bit crooked from breaking it during a hockey game. That one flaw, if you can even call it that, only adds to his gorgeous features. I chuckle. I'm not coping. I'm distracting myself. Totally different. Ergo, it's insignificant whether it's healthy or not. Despite himself, amusement flicks across his eyes. "I know you're drunk when you start using words like ergo." I nod somberly. You do know me as well as Josie and Connor do. A ghost of a smirk dances on his face as he leans towards me. There's still some distance between us, but he's close enough where I can pick apart the green and brown that make up his hazel eyes, even in the dim lighting of the bar. "Pretty sure I know you better than both of them." My throat dries, and I suddenly feel too sober for this. I can smell his cologne, a sandalwood scent that seems to cling to him all the time. It's a fragrance that drives me insane in the best way. In a dangerous way. That's a big claim, Lukey. I add on the nickname to lighten the sudden tension that tightens my body, but it doesn't do much. Luke arches a brow. "Am I wrong?" No, he's not. It's why I need another drink. In hindsight, I probably should have stopped drinking after my third drink and third shot. It's a horrible truth I come to terms with as I lean my head back against the wall, eyes shutting as I crouch next to the sink. The mint Stacy gave me doesn't do much to conceal the sting of bile in my throat as I breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth. Beyond the bathroom door, the bar is still lively and loud as I remain crouching down to get my head to stop spinning. Stacy had been in here with me, holding my hair back as I threw up into the toilet. After I finished, I felt more sober than drunk, but not completely. She left just a few seconds ago, saying something about getting reinforcements, whatever the hell that means. I washed my hands and rinsed out my mouth before popping in the mint and willing for the world to just pause. I could really use my bed right now. And some fries. I would kill for some McDonald's fries. God, this is what happens when I try to drink my problems away. The bathroom door swings open, and when I open my eyes, I huff out a breath. This is the ladies' room. I had no idea, comes Luke's dry response as the door swings shut behind him and he walks in. There's only one stall in here, closed off from where we stand by the sink. Luke towers over me, his broad chest sinking as he expels a breath. Let me take you home, Heather. I so badly wish those words were uttered under different circumstances, even if the idea of hooking up with my brother's best friend is a terrible idea. The worst. But I've been trying to put it out of my head for so long, and it won't leave. Still, I don't argue with Luke. I hold my hands out to him, and the corner of his mouth twitches before he grasps them in his larger ones. There's a clench in his jaw the moment our hands touch, right when I feel this current rush through me from where his skin comes into contact with mine. Luke easily pulls me to my feet, his grip tightening when I squeeze my eyes shut and sway slightly at the movement. He's silent for a moment before asking, "You good?" "Mm-hmm." I nod before opening my eyes. I meet his gaze and I try for a sheepish smile. "Can we get McDonald's?" A small smile tugs on his mouth. "Sure." We're in his car just moments later after I've bid goodnight to my friends. It's a little after 1 in the morning, but Clover Way doesn't close until 3, so it's still pretty busy by the time we're in Luke's Jeep and pulling away. He's got the seat heaters on as I sit curled up in my Sherpa jacket, and I try to keep my gaze from sliding over to Luke as he drives with one hand on the wheel, his right arm resting on the center console. I really want to just reach over and trace his tattoos, but I refrain myself and just watch the street lamps go by. His car smells of sandalwood too, just like him, and I inhale quietly, leaning back against the leather seat as the McDonald's sign comes into view. I smile and sit up in dazed excitement, hearing Luke's low chuckle as he pulls into the drive-thru. There's no one else in line, so we place our order right away. He doesn't typically eat fast food, but he ends up getting himself a small order of fries, and once we have the food, I'm already digging into mine. "You're the best," I mumble as I take a bite of a chicken nugget. I'm confident that it tastes infinitely better when drunk than it does sober. As Luke drives, he snorts. "Are you talking to me or the food?" I pause mid-chew. "You?" I answer, more as a question, which only makes him chuckle quietly. I grin at the sound, eating my food, and coming to terms with the fact that the night may have started out terribly, but it's unsurprising that Luke was involved in making it better.
Chapter 2. Luke. "You're getting better," I comment as I load my gear into the trunk of my car. Theo, my 15-year-old brother, grins. He inherited dark brown eyes and dimples from his mom, my stepmother, but the rest of him is all me and Dad. Strong jaw, dark hair, and he's already getting tall. "You think?" he asks, tossing his own duffel into the trunk next to mine. "Your offensive moves have improved," I tell him with a small smirk as we head to the front of the car. Salt on the pavement used to melt the earlier snowfall crushes under our boots. You could use some work in front of the goal, though. Theo nods, flashing me another grin as we get into the car. Yes, sir. I roll my eyes, suppressing a small smile as I drive us back home. With winter break coming to an end, I head back to campus tomorrow, and I wanted to get one last one-on-one hockey session in with Theo before I left. The kid is a jack of all trades, interested in hockey, soccer, and basketball, while my passion has only ever been being on the ice. Nothing else has ever come close, or ever will as far as I'm concerned. So whenever I can when I'm home, I make sure Theo and I get some time together on the ice, and it always proves to be worthwhile. Are you excited for the Frozen Four? Theo asks as I turn the car into our neighborhood. We haven't been picked yet, kid. Theo scoffs. But you totally will, he says, his outward confidence reflecting my inner one. You guys have been crushing it this season. You'll definitely make it. I shoot him a small smirk. Let's not jinx it. He nods seriously, knowing just how superstitious athletes, especially hockey players, can be. When we arrive home, Dad is in the kitchen finishing up preparing lunch, and Ma is sitting in the connecting living room watching TV. A blue blanket is thrown over her, covering the baby bump of a surprise pregnancy none of us saw coming. She's about 5 months along, which means that in about 4 months, Theo and I will be having a baby sister, which is fucking insane to think about. My sister is going to be 21 years younger than me. It's a wild thought. How was it? Dad asks when he sees us walk in. As Theo launches into how our practice session went, I head to the couch and plop down next to Ma. I scroll through my phone as she watches TV, stopping myself from checking my email because I know what's waiting for me in the inbox. Social media bores me, so I'm only on Instagram, and I spend the next few minutes responding to some texts from friends until Ma speaks up. How's Heather doing? She asks. Her tone, coated in a slight Louisiana drawl that's still present in her voice, is innocent enough, yet I still feel myself tense up a little as I glance at her. Her gaze remains on the TV as she adds nonchalantly, Have you talked to her after dropping her home the other day? I suck my teeth, fixing my gaze on the TV that plays an unfamiliar show. You're not as subtle as you think you are, Ma, I tell her coolly. Who says I'm trying to be subtle? She asks, and I can hear the smile in her voice without even having to look at her. You know I've always loved how sweet you are on her. I slouch back into the couch, pursing my lips as I cross my arms over my chest. Sweet isn't how anyone would describe me, I mutter. Ma is grinning. Except for Heather. Suppressing the urge to sigh heavily, I just shake my head and pull some of Ma's blanket on top of me as she laughs. The worst part is, she isn't entirely wrong. Unless absolutely necessary, I wouldn't really go out of my way for anyone. But Heather Davis has always been different. It started off when we were younger simply because she's Connor's sister, and Connor is like a brother to me. I know how much he loves Heather, how protective he is of her, and as the three of us grew up, I started feeling that same kind of need to look out for her. It crept up on me without much thought, and at this point Heather has dug herself so deeply into my bones, I don't think she even has a clue as to how much. She's in there, and I can't get her out. Even though I know I should. Even though I know it's a terrible fucking idea to have any sort of feelings for my best friend's sister, because as close as he and I are, he'd kick my ass if he knew half the thoughts that run through my mind every time I lay eyes on Heather. I try to stop them. I really fucking do. But one look at those light brown eyes that I swear to God look golden in the sunlight, and I'm a fucking goner. It's effortless, this effect she has on me, and sometimes, despite the circumstances, I don't think I even mind that she evokes these reactions from me. They make me feel alive, and for the longest time, only hockey has been able to do that. As ridiculous as that may sound to someone else. But Heather makes me feel alive in a way that's completely different, and just as addicting. Possibly more so. How dangerous is that? Whether she's an exception or not, I finally say in response to Ma's words, I can't do anything about it. She's Connor's sister. I wouldn't cross that line. Ma sighs next to me, sounding almost despondent. She reminds me of Heather in some ways, including the fact that I know they're both hopeless romantics. Heather with all of those books I see her reading all of the time, and Ma with her romantic comedy she loves to watch. I'm pretty sure we're watching one right now. "You're respectful of your friendship, I get it," Ma says with a nod, resting one hand on her bump and the other reaching over to squeeze my arm. "I just wish you didn't have to suppress your feelings." I appreciate the sentiment, so I shoot her a dry little smile. "That makes me sound like an emotionally constipated teenager, Ma." She huffs with a roll of her eyes. "But it's fine. I accepted it a while ago. There's not much else for me to do, really. As close as I am with Connor and Heather individually, I can't risk my friendship with either of them. There are too many reasons I shouldn't cross the line. I don't know if Heather even feels the same way, but I have a good idea as to how Connor would respond if he found out I have a thing, to put it lightly, for his sister. Not to mention, I'm notoriously bad at relationships. The only one I've maintained this long is my relationship with hockey, and the game always comes first. It always has. I can't change that. Dad calls out that lunch is ready, and we make ourselves plates of the pasta he's prepared. As Ma and Theo head back into the living room to eat, I'm helping myself to some Texas toast as Dad slides up next to me. He gives me a somber look, and I already know what he's about to ask. "Did you reply to the email?" he questions, looking as troubled as I felt when I received the message. "No," I tell him, jaw clenching momentarily. "I don't think I will." Dad nods, looking away for a moment. When his gaze meets mine once more, he lets out a breath. "It's up to you if you do or don't, bud. I'm on board with whatever you want to do." I nod. "I know, Dad." He gives me a reassuring smile. "Whatever you do, just keep your focus on school and hockey. Don't let anyone or anything distract you." I shoot him a wry smile. I never do. I'm not going to let Cindy shift my focus on what's important. Keeping up my grades and being the best I can be at hockey goes hand in hand, especially given that my tuition is paid for through a full sports scholarship. He gives my shoulder a quick squeeze before taking his plate and heading into the living room. While I stand in the kitchen filling my plate, my gaze drifts over to my family. Dad sits next to Ma on the couch, and Theo's taken up the recliner as they all watch the movie Ma had been watching, silently eating their food. Dad and Ma sit close together, like too much distance isn't ideal. They've been like that my entire life. They met when I was about a year old and got married when I was 4. Ma is, for all intents and purposes, the only mother I know, and if I'm being completely fucking honest, she's the only mother I want to know. No matter how many goddamn emails my birth mother sends me asking, begging to see me, I have no interest, and I don't know how many times I have to tell her that. I have my family. I don't need someone trying to weasel their way in just because they feel guilty. She's 21 years too late. After we finish lunch, I head back to my room and finish up whatever packing I have left, but decide to hop into the shower first. The hot water feels soothing on my muscles that are slightly sore after playing around on the ice for a few hours. But my thoughts don't leave me alone as I shower, and instead they drift back to the conversation with Ma about Heather. And then all I can think of is Heather. Obsessively. Relentlessly. With every thought about her that hits me, the blood rushes to my dick as I see the outline of her smile, her laugh, her eyes. My jaw tightens and I can't stop my movements as my hand drifts down before wrapping it around my heart and cock, letting out a sharp breath at the first touch. Slowly I work my hand along the shaft, eyes falling shut and head tilting back, uncaring of the cascade of water as images of Heather flash through my mind in time with the movement of my hand. I'm keenly aware of my pounding heart, and I wonder how different Heather's smaller, softer hand would feel around my cock as I pick up the pace. Would she fit all of me in her mouth? Would she gag? Would she swallow everything I give her? Fuck, I curse, the growl lost in the sound of water hitting the tiles as I pump myself to the edge, my breathing growing more and more ragged by the second. With eyes squeezed tightly shut, I imagine how she'd look on her knees in front of me, how her big, light brown eyes would look up at me as she sucks me off, how her lips would look wrapped around me. My imagination runs wild, my hand never ceasing its movements, and suddenly everything fucking explodes and my release pounds through me like a damn tsunami. I come with a growl of Heather's name that bounces off the tiles of my bathroom, my head bowing forward and free hand slapping against the tiled wall as my body shudders through the orgasm. Shit. It's not the first time I've come to the thought of Heather, and it won't be the last. And each time it makes me wonder more and more what the real thing would be like. I catch my breath and will my heart to calm down as I finish off the rest of my shower. My skin's on fire, and I know it has nothing to do with the hot water. I turn the knob all the way in the opposite direction and let the freezing water wash over me so I can relax. I've spent so much of my life on the ice that I've trained my body to handle the extreme temperature. My body begins to shiver, but I regulate my breathing so it's slow and steady, just like I do when I'm playing hockey. I am totally in control. I count 30 slow inhales and exhales before turning off the water. The only thing, and I mean only thing, I love about a cold shower is how warm the air feels once you get out. I dry off and change into my clothes to continue packing. My room is still the same, despite living on campus for the last 3 years to save for the summers. There are trophies and medals from hockey games I've played since I was a kid that are now hung up and lining the shelves on the wall. Another shelf of books and vinyl albums I've bought over the years stands by the bed. Most everything is the same except for my missing TV and gaming system, which I handed off to Theo. I don't know how much longer I'll get to keep my room with a baby on the way, but it sure feels good to have my old bedroom when I come home. As I pack up my duffel, I hear the doorbell ring, and when I glance out the window, I raise an eyebrow at the sight of Connor's car in the driveway. He didn't tell me he was coming over, and the thought of seeing him after I just jerked off to the thought of his sister makes my stomach churn in an awful combination of guilt and shame. I head downstairs, hearing voices, and slow down when I reach the kitchen and catch sight of Heather, not Connor. I almost pause in surprise, jaw tightening as I gaze at her as if she wasn't just consuming my thoughts. She's talking to Ma, who is already opening up a Tupperware filled with what looks like cookies. Double chocolate chip, I'm guessing, knowing they're Heather's specialty. "You're a doll," Ma is smiling at Heather as she pulls out a cookie. "The little one and I thank you," she adds, patting her belly with her free hand. Heather laughs, and the sound of it, plus the sight of her smile, twists my chest, nearly robbing me of my breath as I slowly walk into the kitchen. "Thank me by naming her after me," Heather teases before her brown eyes land on me and her smile softens a little. "Hey, Luke." "You think bribing Ma with cookies is going to get you a namesake?" I ask her with a raised eyebrow, strolling over and grabbing a cookie for myself. Junk food is not my thing, but I've always had a struggle against my resolve where Heather is concerned. "One can only hope," Heather responds with a grin. "When has anyone ever been able to say no to my cookies and cupcakes?" Her gaze meets mine once more as I eat the cookie, the chocolate exploding on my tongue. Delicious as usual. "I also wanted to thank you for bringing my drunk ass home the other night." I frown slightly. "You already thanked me," I remind her. She'd done so right when I had dropped her off, even though I told her she didn't need to express her gratitude. Of course I'd take her home when she's drunk off her ass. There's no question about it. It's not the first time I've done it, and it probably won't be the last. Her grin only widens, making my heart trip like a clumsy idiot. "And now I'm thanking you with cookies," she says as Ma chuckles and walks back to the living room. Heather asks me, "What time are you headed back to school tomorrow?" "Probably leave here around 11, I answer, itching to reach for another cookie. The sweet taste is addicting and will be my downfall. "What about you and Con?" "Around the same time, I think," she says. Then, with a roll of her eyes, she adds, "Connor hasn't finished packing yet." At my deadpan expression, she chuckles. "I know, he's a procrastinator in everything but his studies." "Want me to come over and kick his ass into gear?" Heather snorts out a laugh, and the corner of my mouth twitches into a smile. "No. If he's not ready tomorrow, I'll steal his car and head out myself. He can find his own way back to Stonewall." I suck in a breath through my teeth. That's cold. Heather lifts her chin defiantly. I can be cold. This time.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?